So I had comments off and my sound off. So I'm talking, asking if anybody can hear me, and nobody can respond because I had comments off and my sound off. So, all right, we should be good now, I think. I hope. I am so out of practice. You never know. I used to do this 3, sometimes 4 times a week, right? So, okay. So for those of you watching video, you can get a good laugh out of it. And of course, everything's shifted way over. And so I have to kind of push it all the way over on one edge of my desk. There we go. Okay, so there we go. All righty. So, welcome for today. Now I'm totally discombobulated. So I'm not sure if Joy remembered we were doing it today. Let me text her and see. Real fast. I should have texted her earlier, but I thought she would remember. Okay, real quick text to her. So you should have sound. Can anybody hear me? Or do you all not have sound? Because I have the sound on, so I'm not sure why you wouldn't hear me. I didn't miss this part of doing the shows. Okay, so people do have sound. Okay. All righty. It just gets confusing when one person says they can't hear and nobody else responds. So, all righty. I'm not sure if Joy is going to join us or not. I haven't talked to her today, but we shall see. If not, we'll be just fine. I do ask if you do have a question that you do, and I forgot to print something real quick, but you do put it in caps. I'm going to just have to cut this part off the video. So hang on 2 seconds. I have to print something that I forgot to print. All right, it's printing, so sorry about that. Okay, so there must be a tremendous delay from when I asked to when anybody responds. So, but we've dealt with that over the years as well. So anyway, I'll go ahead and cut the first part of this video off because it's just kind of a hot mess. So what we are going to be working on today is we are going to be creating some faces using coverable buttons. What I had originally planned was working on a simpler version, or not a simpler version, a more traditional version of my my 3 sisters journal book. And I'm still doing that. It's just going to go straight to video. I had some stuff for my mom that I've been having to call insurance companies and all sorts of stuff. So my week kind of got completely toasted by that. So I wasn't able to get a tutorial done this week for this one. And I'm not starting a project now or in the future on a live show that I don't have fully prepared to go. So I've just decided that I'm going to move it to video. It'll still be during the month of December, but it's just not going to start on the live show today, but we are going to do something related to it as I was working on making, excuse me, the faces for, I'm going to be doing two of those, one in a more traditional fashion and one that I'm doing it as snow angels. And so with the, I was working on the snow angel version a bit. And this is one of the Three Sisters tags. But I had used clay faces on the original one. And so I wanted to do something a little bit different on this one because the clay faces aren't always super easy for a lot of people to use. And so I was thinking, oh, what are some other things that we can do? And so I decided to see what I could do in terms of, I've hand drawn some onto, this is on a piece of silk, but you could use cotton too. It doesn't have to be silk. And then trying to figure out something that I could cover to create the faces. And I just got some of these buttons that you can cover. These happen to be ones from Hobby Lobby, but they also have them at Joann's. They have them on Amazon. But they're buttons. They're just little metal domes. And I'm going to be showing you how to do all this part. But they're little metal domes, and they have a back on them that you can cover with fabric to make buttons for pretty much anything. And they come in all sorts of sizes. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But that worked out perfectly. I was trying to figure out, because I didn't want it something flat. So I didn't want to just cover over chipboard. So I went to the store just trying to find something. I'd originally thought about, I have some stone beads. I thought about covering that, but then it's like, I really like these beads. So finding these buttons, it was like, perfect. Now what I do have and what I just printed is part of the reason why I was just a little bit discombobulated getting things set up is I was trying to get this loaded up onto my website. And it is on the schedule on my website. But I have these little faces you're free to download that you can then trace. And I have them in two sizes. This is the 1.5" size, these larger ones. And the smaller ones are for 1.1/8" buttons. So that you can just trace these in case you're not comfortable with drawing a face. You can just trace these onto some fabric, and then I'm going to be showing you today how to color them and such. Excuse me. So those are available. You go to my website at lauradennisondesigns.com. You go to the schedule and click on today's date, which is December 10th, my husband's birthday. But then you can go and you click on where it says button face. You just click on that. It'll open a PDF that you can download onto your computer, or you can just print from there. And it gives you the faces in two sizes. So I have one with the nose facing right, one with the nose facing left, and one with the eyes closed. If you want to draw your own faces, you're welcome to do that. But this gives you a base to start from. This is the face I used for this one, as well as this one. And no two ever come out exactly the same. It depends on how they stretch over the button, that sort of thing. Then I took one of these faces after I determined I was going to use it for on the doll, the paper doll, the angel, the snow angel. And I thought, well, this would be good for a class to do today, because I could kill two birds with one stone. I can show you how to make these faces, and you can turn them into cute little angel buttons. Here I use a little sparkly snowflake that you can get at most of the craft stores, unless you go to Hobby Lobby and it's 2 weeks before Christmas, and they start putting their stuff out at like August and by now it's pretty much gone, so you might have to go to some of the other craft stores. And then I put a few little wings on there, so there's just a little what I'm calling angel face or button face. But you can do pretty much anything you want with it. And this one was kind of my test, so it's got a little extra scribble stuff on it because I was still figuring out what I was doing. The one I did this morning, I'm happier with how it came out. But really fun things to work with and really quite simple. So I want to kind of go through a little bit of, okay, so it was easy for you, Christine, because I'm going, oh, I don't remember how to, if you look, I have some years, because it records all my downloads, and there's some years where there's pages and pages and pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of stuff that I put up on my website. I have literally like a dozen from all of 2021 and maybe 24 from 2020. You can just tell I have spent 2 years in an absolute ditch. So, but yeah, so hopefully, knock wood, 2022 will be a better place. So anyway, so Christine, I'm glad that it's easy to download. So thank you for going ahead and doing that. So the supplies you're going to need is you're going to need either to be able to draw a face or use the sheet that I have. Like I said, it's a freebie on my website. You're also going to need some fine weave fabric. Now this is some silk. It's just some silk Dupioni. So it's got a little bit of slubs and texture in it because I just like that. But you could also use a really fine weaved cotton as well. So you'll need a fabric. Then you're going to need some sort of a permanent marker. Now, I have always thought these micron pens, which are an archival ink, which are technically should be, it says micro pigment ink for waterproof and fade-proof fine lines. Well, on fabric, that is not the case. On fabric, it runs. Let me see, where's my little scrap? I did a scrap piece that I was testing on. But the one here that ran, that was a micron pen. And the ones that didn't run, that I had much better success with, were, and I didn't end up using this one, but the Zig Millennium, which is also a pigment ink. And now this one didn't run when it got wet. And since I'm going to be using some water on here to kind of mush my colors around, it needs to be waterproof. And then this really super fine tip Sharpie pen is what I ended up using. But I was really surprised because on paper, these are waterproof, but on fabric, it ran all over the place. So, yeah, and I don't think either Lois or Pam knows how to link it. But if you just go to my website, www.lauradenisondesigns.com. That's not hard. DENISON. And then go to the tab. There's the bar tabs on there. You go to the tab that says schedule, and a calendar will pop open. And on today's date, there should be an event there for December 10th. Click on that. And in the description, it will say, click here for for angel faces. Click on the part that's blue, angel faces, and that will link you to the PDF that you can then download or print from there. But yeah, with Christine is not a mod. Well, and I'm not really sure how to make her a mod. Let me see if I can turn Christine into a mod. Then she can do that. Okay, Christine, you're now a mod. You can do that then. I think I've just made you a mod. No, yeah, you are a mod. So Christine can now post the link. But it's really quite easy to find there. So anybody whose name is in blue, they're a mod and they can do stuff. Don't let the power go to your head, Christine. It's not that exciting. Now, Christine's cool. I'm fine with her being a mod. So, so anyway, okay. So you need your fabric. You need a really super fine point. There she goes. Christine was able to put the link up now. So the fabric, a fine point permanent marker. And I suggest on a little scrap of whatever fabric you're using, mark some of the pen on there. Make sure it doesn't run on the fabric, period. Because sometimes they will if they're not a fabric marker, or they're some permanent markers that are, some markers will run on fabrics, others will not. And then just put it on a little scrap of the paper and wet it down with some water. And you'll be able to see whether it runs or not. So you'll need fabric, pen, and then you're going to need some of the covered buttons. Now, I recommend you can get a set that's got in it, it's got a 2-part thing on it, in that you put your little disc down and then you put the back on and then you squish it all down to get the fabric around. I also, with these, because I like to run them a little bit big, I also use a needle and thread to draw the backing in, and you'll see that when I get to that. But you're going to want one set with this application disc, because you can also get them, you can get them with the disc. You can also get, more of them where you don't need the replacement disc. But you need at least your first set. You need to have this, or it becomes really difficult, or more difficult to cover the buttons without this little unit. Now, as I said, these are using an 1.5" button, and we also can do one that's an 1 1/8", which is the next size down. And these are just standard sizes that they do. Anything smaller than that, it's going to be kind of tiny. This size is going to be comparable to the size of the face on the paper dolls I did for the 3 sisters. So it just depends if you don't want to work super tiny to begin with. Now, these, as I said, I got these at Hobby Lobby. They have them at Joann's. They have them at most other kind of chain fabric stores, which there aren't that many of these days. I don't know if Michael's, with their new fabric department, carries them or not. And they are on Amazon. Dritz, these happen to be the Hobby Lobby brand, but Dritz makes these. And I mean, this part even looks exactly the same. So I'm sure these are made for Hobby Lobby by Dritz. So, but you definitely need these 2 parts. So make sure you get that when you either get them or order them. So you'll need the buttons, and you'll need the number of buttons. For instance, this set comes with the largest set, comes with the tools as well as 2 buttons. This one, for these smaller ones, came with 3 buttons and the tools. So, and these are different sizes. So the different sizes have, this part is different. These 2 parts are different on the 2 different sizes, because obviously it needs to be. So the smaller one and the larger one, you can see they're different sizes because you need them to be different sizes. That was a brilliant statement, Laura. So then that gets you to where you're pretty much started, and then the sky's the limit as to how you want to embellish them. Now, I'm using my Neocolor 2 crayons is what I color, because they're water soluble. You could also use the Tim Holtz Distress crayons. You're just going to have to be gently handed, because those are so super soft, but they're any kind of water soluble. So if you have some water soluble color pencils, you could use that. You can use watercolors. And if in a pinch, you could probably, I haven't tried this, but you could use just, your typical acrylic paint and just water it way, way down. But, you know, these crayons are one of my absolute favorite thing. So I use these an awful lot. And this is how many is in this set? Okay, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. This is a 40-piece set, and I've used every color in here at least a couple of times. And in fact, some of these crayons I've had to replace because I've used some of them and they're in a different cup. These are all just the whole ones, and I've got broken ones too. So, but you can use any number of things that is water soluble to color them. So, excuse me. And then if you're turning it into an ornament, like I have here, I just have some little sparkly ornaments that you can buy, you know, in a pack of like 10 or 12 of them. We've used these on multiple projects in the past. They're just glittery. You could also die cut snowflakes if you have a snowflake die out of cardstock and or chipboard, and use that. Another thought that I had was you can get these tiny little embroidery hoops. You could put fabric in there. You could put paper on the top and place the face on top of that. I found some wood snowflakes that you could do this on top of. I also got some wood. These are little paper mache ornaments that you could put them on. I thought these cute little frames that Tim Holtz has, you could put some backing on it, put them in there to put the little face on there to make this into ornaments. There's any number of things for your backing. You could cut it out of a piece of chipboard or heavy cardstock. I have a couple of stencils that are round that I was using this as kind of so you have the head further down there, and this could be like the halo around it. So you could stencil on in gold, which is what I did on when I did this one of the Three Sisters paper doll. See, it has that kind of halo around it. And so, you know, much like we did on this, there's all sorts of things that you could do to embellish it. And then also I'm using any number of, you know, little cute and fluffy yarns and fibers. And so if you've got any kits over the years that you still have the fibers around from, you know, any of those kinds of things, add to it and make for fun embellishments on it. I pulled this out right before we started. It's got a little, I don't know what you call this stuff. It's a trim with the little balls on it. And then for the wings, I used one of the Tim Holtz Impresslets. These are really cool. I don't know how many of you have actually seen these. They're relatively new. They're probably not, they're relatively new to me. Let's put it that way. But it has the die cut in the embossing folder. You know, Tim for a while did it where he had embossing folders that went along with a die, but you had to do it in 2 steps. Well, now they've made these to where it's all done in 1 step, as you have the die and the impression folder. And so you just run it all together all at once, and it makes these really cool, very dimensional type of pieces. So I got these cute little wings. And so when I did this one, I just glued the face down to, I have one more of those snowflakes. Where'd it go? Who's just showing them to you? Where did I put it? Oh, it's right here. So I glued the face on, and then I put some different yarns and stuff around it to kind of frame her face. Some sparkly ones in there. And then onto the back, I attached the wings, and then I'm just going to put a string through there, and she's good to go. So, you know, you can do it with that. I'll do the same sort of thing with this one. I'd probably paint this one first. You could do lace around her. You can do it without the wings if you didn't want to do the wings on there. Also with this guy, if you put a backing behind her, then you can do a little halo up above her, and turn that into an ornament. There's any number of things that you may just, as I said, using a little hoop. There's any number of things that we have around that you can use. So, kind of just look around. You can add beads. You can add sparkles. You could add some sort of a dangle thing down from it. There's any number of things that you can do. So, all right. Does anybody have any questions on what you'll need to make these? So it's not a huge amount of materials. It's some fabric, pen, the buttons, and some way of coloring them. That's predominantly what you need. And in terms of embellishing it, there's and some yarn and fluffy stuff. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot that you have to have. So yeah, so if there's any questions, otherwise I'm going to show you just how to do this. I'll give it a second for people to ask some questions. Now the button maker at Joann's, if you're watching the video, it's not going to look like this packaging because this is from Hobby Lobby. The one from Joann's is probably going to be a Dritz. Okay, so what Christine just linked is the smaller size. She linked to this 1 1/8 inch size, and this is the 1 1/2 inch size. I know Amazon for a fact has both sizes. So yes, it's Dritz. So it just depends on where you want to look for it, where you want to order from, that sort of thing. If I find any other places that you can order them from. I know that the smaller size, I know when I looked it up, Michael's had these in the smaller sizes. I just didn't look in the store. But the 1.5 inch, I found Amazon. I looked for a fact before the show. Amazon had the 1.5 inch, and Hobby Lobby has the 1.5 inch. I think Joann's, you may be able to order the 1.5 inch, but I'm not positive on that. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Alrighty, so after you go to my website, go to the schedule, go to December 10th, open that up, and click on the button face where it says click here. Click on that. That opens up the PDF, and you can then download or print from there, and that will give you your 1.5 inch and your 1 1/8 inch size buttons. Now, this outline here, well, it looks like it's a little bit smaller than the face of this. That was just for me, more importantly for me, just to have a general idea of, so I can center it on the face. Okay, so Christine's not finding it on Joann's on either online or such. So you don't need to worry about putting a link up. So you'll just need to search for covered buttons and find out where in your area you may be able to get those. Now in Europe, I have no idea. So Europe or Australia or any place like that, I have no idea where you would get them there. But yeah, the link on Amazon's too long to post. You just put in covered buttons. Wherever you go, just put in covered buttons. If they carry sewing notions and they have them, it'll bring it up. So anyway, okay, so we have the two sizes. So you're going to want to cut your fabric to be at least 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch in all directions bigger than the circle of your button. Okay. So then I can just place this and see through to see the face. I don't know if you guys can see that under. See how you can see the face through the fabric. So you can't use too heavy of a fabric, or you're not going to see that unless you have a light table, or you can put it up in a window during the day. At night, it doesn't work very well as a light table. So let's just go with the same face, or should we go the face the other direction? Let's just go with the same one. So then I'm going to take my pen and very lightly, you're just going to trace over the parts to the face. If you want to draw your own faces, I do recommend you drawing them on something like a piece of paper and then tracing them rather than drawing outright. If yours doesn't come out perfect, it's okay. Now I do color the pupils of the eyes in with my pen. Now, I'm going to take my pencil and super lightly just kind of where that circle is so that when I'm trying to center it, so then I can take the paper away. Now I've got my face marked on there. Now, before I start doing anything with anything liquid or otherwise, I want to make sure my ink is good and dry. So I'm just going to run my heat tool over the top of it to make sure my ink is nice and dry so that it doesn't fuzz and blur. So at this point, this is where I have been going ahead and initially coloring my face, and then I put it onto the button. You could also, at this point, put it onto the button right away, and then color it afterwards. And for many of you, then it's then tight onto the button, and it's probably a little bit easier than having the loose paper. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we'll do this big one first, and then we'll try a little one. How's that? So there's a backing piece and there's the dome piece. Now on the backing piece, because this is a button, excuse me. Anyway, sorry about that. As y'all are used to, I sneeze a lot. So there's this little button loop on the back, and I'm just taking my wire cutters and snipping that off because I don't want that on the back. Okay, now the other ones all came out super easy. So it's always this way. It's like it literally fell out. When I did it the first 2 times. So it's always got to be more difficult. It gets camera shy, I swear. All right. So, because I don't want that loop on the back, because I want the back of my button to be flat. Okay. So we're going to want that to center on there. Now, I am going to go ahead and just trim my corners off, still maintaining that 3/4, ½ an inch at the bare minimum around that face. But it just takes away that excess fabric. Now, I did have a needle and thread out here before. What did I do? I put it away. That's what I did. And I'm just going to run. This is just big fat stitches. And this is, you don't have to do this. It'll just make it easier to gather the fabric all up, because otherwise you're having to kind of get it nice and evenly distributed while you're folding it to the inside. And that's not always super easy to do. So you don't have to be any kind of seamstress. And I'm just running along, it's called a running stitch. It's just up and down. Close to the edge, but not super close in case you have a, for instance, this silk ravels pretty easily. So if you have a ravelly fabric, you don't want to go too close, but you don't also want it to show. And these are like 1/8 inch long stitches, so this is not anything big. And it's not going to show, so it doesn't matter that it's showing here. I wanted it to show too, so that you all could see the stitches on here. But see how it's not super tiny stitches. And you'll see here in a sec why running this stitch around the outside edge just makes it a little easier to get the fabric all gathered. But if you don't have a thread and needle, it's not going to be the end of the world. So it's starting to gather around. So I'm going to lay this approximately kind of in the center and just pull this thread tight. But see how that just kind of gathers it around. But before you pull it super tight, you can kind of move this around to where the face is where you want it to be. So we got it centered. This one, he got a little, or she got off to the left a little bit. So my needle came off, so I got to rethread that. You can on the back side kind of even out the gathering. So it's relatively even. Just going to take a couple of stitches. Gonna lock that off. Doesn't have to be super permanently locked off. I just want it to hold till I get the other part on. Okay, trim that off. But see how that kind of gathers everybody a little more evenly around the back. So make sure it's kind of smooth on the front. You don't have any big fat gathers on the front. And then you're going to set this down inside of the clear part. I'm just going to pop that down inside like so. And you're going to take your backing, and it's got the center part is concave or it's convex. You want the concave part down. We're going to set that in there. And we're going to use this blue thing to push it down in there. That's all you need to do. And then you can pop it out. And so it's nice and clean on the back where everything's all tucked in. If you have any concerns, you can run a bead of glue around that because it's not going to show. But that gives us our face nicely centered on our button. Let's set that aside again. Is there any questions on that? All right, now this is where whatever you're going to use to be coloring your face, whatever color you want to make your face, it's entirely up to you. So I'm using this off-white color fabric so it doesn't change the colors of whatever I'm using. It's a neutral background. If you wanted to use a colored fabric, you can absolutely do that. So it really comes down to whatever it is that the look that you want it to be. So I'm going to use a little bit of a warm brown for shadowing some of the areas like around the eyes. And you want to do this with a soft hand. Don't press hard. Don't make a lot of lines. You're just kind of gently coloring in where there's some shadow. So underneath her nose, you know, like around the mouth, maybe give her some good cheekbones. Maybe a little bit underneath the lips. But see how I've kind of just added some shadowing, contouring. Anybody who does makeup and that sort of thing will know what the contouring stuff is. So it doesn't look real great done like that. But then I'm going to take my it starts to smear it a little bit when it gets wet. So that's just my first underlayer, and then I'm going to add more color on top. So if I wanted to make it a brown face, I could continue layering brown. If I want to make it more of a pink face, then I can use some pink tones on top of it. Try that. Paper. But that just kind of starts to smear the shadows around. So then I can use a peachy tone. Kind of expand around that. I'm going to spritz her again. You can actually kind of help smear the color a little bit with your fingertip or with a brush. See how it's then starting to give some depth. And it dries when it's wet, it's darker, but then as it dries, it gets lighter. But see how we're giving some depth to her face? Okay, so then I'm gonna take some pink. Thank you, Lois, for joining us. I know this is late for you, sweetie. So then I'm just gonna add some pink to give her some kind of blush. So I'm just giving her some pink in the cheeks. Maybe I want a little bit more shadow, so I'm going to go with more of a gray brown to give a little bit more shadow. Again, light touch. You don't want to outline the nose too much because then it just becomes super prominent. So I just added some dark shadowing. So then I can get a brush out too if I really want to kind of smooth that out. Kind of get rid of the pencil-y marks. Some water on hand. Don't be afraid to smear with your fingers a little bit. But just think about on the face what you want to kind of recede and what you don't. So anything dark is going to recede. Anything light's going to stay forward. But the brush really helps to get rid of some of those marks. See how the depth is really giving it some dimension to the face by having those shadows. And it's just layers. You know, you don't do everything in the first pass through. It takes a few layers to get there. And one of her cheeks is rosier than the other one. So maybe pop a little more color in there in this one. And this I can just, using my brush, so I don't have to wet down the whole thing. Using my brush to kind of. So it just gives her some nice rosy little cheeks. Now I want also a white. I meant to mention this. You're going to probably want a white pencil and a white pen because I want to just highlight, bring the whites of her eyes back into being white and not so they kind of get mudded up a little bit. So I've added some white so her eyes pop out a little more. Anything else kind of, if you've done makeup, wherever you want it highlighted, do some little highlight. Then if we want to do some color to her eyes, let's make these maybe dark green eyes. Put a little color on there. And if I want a little eyeshadow, maybe she has a little bit of lavender over her eyes. Then I can take my brush. Let's smear that a little bit, maybe her eyes a little bit, just kind of set it. Do the green. I don't want to do the purple with it rinsing. So there I've added a little bit of color to her face. I'm going to draw, whoops, runaway face. Let's dry her face a little bit. Because remember, and when you dry it, it will get lighter. The colors will soften. So when it's wet, don't even think, oh, that's the color I want, because it won't be that color. It will change. It'll lighten up. Now I can also go back in with my pen if I want to add some little fine like eyelashes. Or maybe I want to add to her brows a little bit to make those a little bit more. Or maybe even kind of etch-like lines, kind of giving some shadow around her eyes if I want to. Again. So there I've just defined her eyes a little bit more. So I'm too close. Then I'm going to take my white pen. And this, I've always said this on whenever you do anything that's something that you want to appear that it's an alive thing. So when I was doing all my quilting projects where I had quilting creatures, or whenever I've taught anything where it's like faces or something like that, or eyes, this looks cool, but adding a white dot onto each eye in approximately the same placement is, I just call it the life force dot. So, okay, look at it now. Looks good. Then I'm going to take, and it's either on of the eye, the pupil part of the eye. It's you want to either do it on the right or the left. Since it looks, with my shadow on this side of my face, my light source would be coming from this side. So I'm going to put the light on this side. And it's a tiny little dot, but it just makes it seem more alive. You don't want it in the dead center because then it looks like it's a pupil. You want it off to the side a little bit. Okay, and then I'm also going to take my black pen and make sure I have my black pupil in there too. So, but I think when we've done some things over the years, I've talked about, putting that life force dot on there because it just gives it, I don't know, it's like it's alive. So, so then you can just, add some more color. I'm going to give her some rosy lip. Again, use the brush on these small places to kind of soften the color. Okay, that went kind of crazy. She now has a red chin. So I'm going to go in with my little bit of brown. Okay, now I've just about given her a beard. The pink didn't run. The red ran. So, and then I almost gave her a beard. And so we'll take a little bit of peachy color. Cover over some of that. Note to self, the red will run. But we'll just add some layers over it and fix it. Easy to do. And then don't panic until once it's dry, you can add more layers if you need to. Yeah, it's good to know the red runs. I did the pink and I had no problems, but the red decided, yeah, no, I'm going to run. Hard to tell. None of the other colors I've used have run, so that was kind of like, oh, hello. Maybe a little bit more, some warmish tone in the shadow. So just add it. If you don't like it, you can kind of work it around with the brush and get rid of a lot of it. She's looking cute. Maybe a little touch at the bridge of her nose, not a lot, and some up here at the top. Again, super soft. You can add more layers. You can take away some, but not everything. So I just definitely recommend less, and you can add more rather than doing it heavy in the beginning. But you can kind of scrub it a bit with your brush, and it really... And again, always remember it's darker when it's wet, so it'll lighten up as you dry it. You can always go back in with your pen to maybe give a little more definition. You don't want to outline the entire eye because then it really becomes a little too strong. Take the white pen and kind of get a little soft thing around her mouth. And she looks pretty good. But see how that white dot just gives so much, kind of life energy is what I always think. But it looks like it has dimension, but it doesn't. So, and you might have to practice with a few. These are not, these button things are not expensive. So if your first one doesn't come out perfect, don't fret about it. Practice makes perfect. Let's get her nice and dry still. All right, so we've got all of those were made from the same face, and you can see each one looks a little bit different. This one kind of got stretched when I put her on the button, but I think each one, has a little bit different personality. So even though it's all from the, your hand doing it, and that metal gets a little hot. As people know, I have cast iron fingers sometimes. But comes out, I think it comes out really cute. I'm happy with her. So at this point, then you can do any number of things. I think I'm going to save her for one of the dolls. But we can put some stuff around this one and make this one also into an ornament. Do you want me to go ahead and complete an ornament and then go back and do a small one? Or do you want to do the small one and then turn them into ornaments? Giving everybody a second to see what they want to do. Do a small one, says Pam. Good girl, Pam. You answered. Okay, so the same sort of thing. It's got the front. It's got the back. Got to cut the loop off the back. See, that was how they came up the first time. Is that parts just fall right out. So, all right. So I'm going to place that kind of in the center. I'm going to lightly trace around with a pencil because the pencil marks end up not really showing. So just lightly so I know where it is. And let's do a closed eye one. Now, mine printed out a little bit small. These printed out 1 3/8 and 1 inch. So somewhere in making the PDF, it came out a little bit small, but it's still going to work just fine. So I'm just centering it on that face. I'm going to use a zig marker this time and see how I like it. So the eyebrow and the nose connected. Okay, so that gives me my face with the eyes closed. So we'll be able to put some lashes and stuff on it. So it doesn't smear. I just want to make sure it's dry. And I'm going to cut to where it's approximately 3/4 of an inch. 1/2 inch minimum. Maybe a little less on this smaller one. More like 5/8 or ish. Because it used to be on the old, see, it does. Because I was going to say, on the old ones from when I was a kid and stuff, they always had something on the back for what size you cut it. And it's got this little shadow line on there that's the minimum size you want to cut your circle. I have it way tighter on one side than the other, and I want it to center. So I'm going to make sure it's about the same amount. So because this one's smaller, I'm going to go for the 5/8. Don't go less than 1/2 inch, though. All right, so that's about centered. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run a thread around the outside. It gives you just a more even gather of the fabric. And you saw how the fabric really had to gather in to fit inside that back. So I do recommend, but you don't have to. On the one I did last night, I just ran some wet glue around the inside and I just folded and kept tucking it into the glue. So you can do that as well if you don't have needle and thread. But if you don't have a needle and thread, what do you do when a button pops off or something? You know, after millions of years of quilting and sewing since the majority of my life, I can't fathom not having a needle and thread. Now with these smaller ones, you're also going to want to be very delicate with your pressure in your hand and stuff of putting stuff on there, just because they're tinier. And just gently draw it so it's a little bit cupping in. And let's see if we can center this on that face pretty well. Then before you make it tight, you can still kind of gently nudge your face into whatever position you want it to be. It's okay to have a little forehead. In terms of how face anatomy works, this is a very round face and your face is normally much narrower. But your eyes in general, if you're drawing for a very really realistic face, your eyes are about the halfway between the top of your head and the bottom of your chin is where the eyes are. The bottom of your nose is halfway between your eyes and your chin. And it varies slightly, but the mouth is kind of halfway between the nose and the chin. Your ears line up with your eyes. The edges of your mouth center with the pupils of your eyes. There's all sorts of geometry. If you've ever taken a portrait class, it's pretty amazing. You don't think of that, but that's where people get into trouble when they don't understand the geometry of a face, when they're trying to draw a face and can't understand why it's coming out. Because vast majority of people, until they understand that, draw the eyes way too high on the head. I just unthreaded it instead of pulled it on the tail. Thanks, Christine, for helping out. I appreciate it. Helping Pam out. I'm not really sure what happened to Joy. She might be working today since she hasn't responded. So I'm guessing she was working. It's still earlier in the day for her than it is for the rest of us. And they're also having really crappy weather in Hawaii right now. So we're due. The wind hasn't really picked up, but we're supposed to have a really bad wind storm tonight. Wind and rain, which we've been having back to back. They call them atmospheric rivers, which is fun. But it's causing all sorts of really bad flooding and things like that north of here, which is bad. So, all right. So I've got my face centered on there. So I'm hopeful that she's just working and not having issues with power or whatever, because Hawaii is getting really nailed. Okay, so again, the center part is concaved and convex, and we want it concaved, which means it dips in, so that outer edge is kind of lipped up. So center that in there. Seems to be high on one side. There, you just want it nice in there, nice and flat. Pop this on top of there and set that on the top and push it down in. And you want to make sure you push it around on all the sides so it's nice and in there. Yeah, I've never heard of atmospheric river till this year. The state of Washington basically burns all summer long, and now it floods all winter long. But it's especially hard for the people up north that they've already flooded twice, and there's potential they're going to get flooded a third time. So, all right, so we've got our little face on there. So now we can color again. So we start with a little bit of shading around the eyes. Kind of let the lid stay a little at the center, stay a little bit lighter. Again, just super soft hand. This one I think we'll just go ahead and spritz. Get my brush out. The brush really does help smooth it. And it's just a basic brush. This is one of my watercolor brushes, but just, you don't need anything fancy. Just smooth it out. You can also, if you need to add some more, you can also use your brush onto the crayon itself to pick up some color. Now, because this is wet, when I'm adding this, it's automatically kind of just spreading out. Oh, geez, Pam, now you're freaking me out. Okay, so that was the grayish brown. So now we're going to use more of a brown. Get the shade in there. And this one again, I'm just going to wet my brush and pick up just on the tip of my brush. Don't freak out if it's kind of dark, because again, it's wet. So it always looks darker when it's wet. If you want to see something kind of a small, now it's done in etching, but a small kind of face and look at the shading for it, you can get out like a dollar bill or something like that, because that's got this kind of scale of face, and it'll show you with etch lines, but kind of gives you an idea rather than looking at a real face. That's a drawn face. You can look at something like, off of a bill. If you're in Canada, the same thing. It's got Queen Elizabeth on it. So, do you guys still have Queen Elizabeth on the? I haven't looked at a Canadian bill in a while. So I may be being completely wrong there. Oh, okay. I know where that is. There's a little bit of room between you and them. Then Pam's telling me where they are. So, okay, so then we're gonna. Whoops. When it's hot, also your pencil or your neocolors melt in really well when it's hot. So you might want to let it cool down too if you don't want it super heavy on there. So I've just added some of the peachy color to it. If you want to make your face darker, it's just the colors that you use. So, and that's entirely up to you. That's heavy on that side where it melted on there. So you can also wipe some of that off. Comes right off. I'll have to reshadow that because that got a little strong with the peach. shadows under her eyes because she's asleep and she's tired. Okay. Dry her up a little bit, and then we add some more. And again, don't panic when it looks too dark until you dry it. Okay, we're just going to let that cool a little bit because it gets toasty. I'm going to use my pen to define the eyelid a little more. Add some eyelashes. She's got fake ones on because they're nice and long. Add some dimension to the eyebrows. Some fine little hatching around that eye. Maybe fine little hatching on the eyelid. On that side. So there, you got the face coming out here. Let me see if I can get it to where it'll focus where you can see the eyelashes. Too close, it won't focus up close. But anyway, getting the idea. Now I can give her a little rosiness to her cheeks. But it works just as well with the small ones. I was concerned. I go, oh, I hope the small ones aren't going to be harder to do, but they aren't. They aren't any harder than the large one. You just, be cautious and don't. The big key on these is just be light with your hand. Don't push hard. And by light with my hand means it's just, you can add more layers. And so just don't be pushing hard. Just keep it at a real gentle pressure. I think we're going to put a little bit of blue on her eyelids. Now she's not going to have that life force light on her because she didn't have eyeballs. But I'm going to take my white pencil and just very lightly run it kind of on that edge, just to give it some highlight there. Touch on the nose. After doing that, go back with the pen to find that edge again. My rule of thumb, too, is when you want to fuss one more time, it's kind of like anything, whenever you get dressed, take one thing off if you're dressing all up. What is that? Who was that? Chanel who said that? But it's the same thing when it comes to embellishing. When you want to fuss one more time, stop before you do the last fuss and make sure that you actually need it. Okay, so there's the little closed eye face. So, yes, we want it to look like she's sleeping. I want her eyelashes a little bit heavier. And then we're not going to go for the red on the lip. Actually, I'm going to use my brush because I just want a little bit. I don't want a lot. But she's dry too. So if you're going to put the dark color on, make sure it's when she's dry and then don't add a lot of water. So anything like the lip, I would do that at the very tail end after my experience with the last one. But we are able to cover a lot of it up. So, but really not, as you can see watching me do that, that's not difficult to do. So I know a lot of people, like my daughter, the makeup that she does is pretty amazing. So if you've done makeup at all, chances are you have a good idea of what you're doing. So I'm going to add just a little bit of shadowing on her, up on her forehead up here on each side, just to give some dimension. Again, very light, very minimal pressure. And I knock, when I'm getting water on my brush, I'm knocking most of the water off. But it does spread quite quickly. So scrub and blend it in. There, that's what it needed. It's just her forehead was just a little bit bright. So I'm, I had originally just gotten the large size and I was going to use those, but I think this small size is perfect for the paper dolls. So I'll probably end up using her on one of my dolls rather than the larger ones, because just of the scale of that. I really like how that comes out. So we'll make these all into angel ornaments. So try just a bit more. And like I said, with practice, each time each one you do. So there's the sequence of how I've done them. This one, it's, with this one, it's got a lot more kind of, I don't know, maybe I can go in and scrub it out. I just didn't, it's got a lot more marks on it. So maybe you can just kind of use your brush kind of in a scrubbing motion to kind of clean some of those lines up. The first one's got a lot more pen, kind of engraving type lines, but those are the permanent ink, so I can't really get rid of those. Let's soften those up a bit. Yeah, so the brush really helps soften a lot of that up. So, but yeah, this one I had a lot more pen marks and stuff on it. So, and with this guy, the white dot turned into a blue dot. So I can go back over it, put another, whiten it up again, brighten it up. Maybe do a little bit of a, whoa, that was too much. Too much on the lip. That's too white. So we can fix that though. Get it dry. She's weather worn. Yeah, that's about it. It's kind of how I look like at the end of the day. A little bit worn. Oh, that's not a book. That's a tag. That's not a bookmark, but that's fine. But yeah, she looks better. She looks a little softer. But again, like anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. A little bit of practice. And the beauty of, and the sleeping one might be a good one to start with, because then you don't have the eyeballs to deal with. But so these are the two we've done here tonight. We got that little face crew. So let's go ahead and we can do one onto here. I wonder if this is, that might be look kind of cute on that one, but I'm going to save her because I like how she came out. Or we can do one onto, we have to paint this guy. We want to do one onto a snowflake. Should we do it on a little snowflake so it looks like this, kind of like this one? We can do that. I think that's what we'll do. Make sure I have it. So let's put this away and get out. I'm using my hot glue. Might be too fast for somebody having to use hot glue. You could just use regular glue. But what we're going to start with is we're going to glue her down. That's close to the edge. Hot, hot, hot. Hit the finger. Hot. Feels so good. All right, so then I've got some of this. It's actually skinny pieces of fur. Kind of gives it kind of like a little ruff, like an Eskimo ruff or something. Or we can just do whatever cords or strings or ribbons or whatever you have. Wrap around it. Or we can use this little stuff here. Oh, that's super cute around there. Let's do that, and then we can put some of the fluffy stuff around it. But I love how this looks around it. That looks so cute. And this first little nubbin looks a little worse for wear. My husband is walking the golden retriever, and that is Tucker bellowing that he has been left behind. So he practically howls. So if you can hear, that's what's going. Now he's barking, so they must be close to home. So I'm just going to do like 1/4 of an inch at a time. And I can start going a little. Depends on how comfortable you are with a hot glue, but you can also just use regular glue. Oh, I love how that polka dot, the pom-pom trim is working. And just a quick disclaimer for my Canadian friends who are watching. I apologize if you're offended by my use of the word Eskimo, but Eskimo in Alaska is not considered a derogatory term. But I know it is in Canada, so I don't intend to offend anyone. I don't know what else, what other term to use. So, yeah, so that comes out kind of cute with that going around her face. Kind of gives a nice, cute little frame. So then we can use some of this fluffy gray, but it kind of covers over this one's a little less fluffy. It's like it's narrower. We can do that around it. But again, it kind of covers over the snowflake. Here's some eyelash stuff. That one doesn't cover the snowflake as much, but still gives it the fluffy, so let's go with that. This one I only need to do a couple little blops because it's kind of tucking right in behind there perfectly. And I don't want to glue all these little hairs down, so I don't want to put any more glue than I have to on there. This eyelash stuff looks super cute around there. I also have some color eyelash. If you prefer it with having a little bit of color, you could always add another row of that around it. Now that kind of came out kind of cute. I like the color. So let's do a little single row of color to go around. I always love to stick my fingers down the hot glue, and you can't pull it away right away because it'll just make a string. So you just breathe through it. Okay, so I'm going to pull that nice and tight. So I don't want to put a whole lot of glue, so just that little tack up point. Pull it tight. It's tight underneath the. So it's just mainly the color showing, the feathery color showing. Love it when the tongue stops working. Just adds a little touch of color with that eyelash on there. And it worked out so it was, the purple around to the green. So I can't think that came out super cute. You can also add some little beads or sparklies, kind of like how I did on this tag is, I have some little sparkles and stuff on there. You could also add maybe a little crown behind her so she's more angel looking. And then I've got the little angel wings that I can tuck it back behind like so. So we're just going to pop a little glue right here, here, here. And that makes a cute little angel ornament. I like her better than her. This one looks a little. My pen. This I did it with the pigment, and the pen ran a little bit, so she's got some weird wrinkles. So she came out a little cuter. But it would be kind of fun to do maybe around her around just inside the pom-poms, maybe do some stickles or something to add some little extra sparkle. And then just add a little string onto her so it's still pretty on the back. You can actually put a little date round sticker on the back. But it makes for a cute little angel. An angel ornament. So, fun. I can even do the little one on the little one. But I won't. But makes for some cute little ornaments. So anyway, does anybody have any questions? And I've got glitter. Gonna get glitter on me. I'm gonna have glitter on everything. It's fun. So we got like 10 or 12 minutes is all we have left. So this worked out perfectly with the timing on this. Just a couple things in terms of wrapping up. I still and I apologize for this. I had every intention of on Sunday having that the dimensions for last week's, and I didn't get them up. And then with everything I had going on with my mom, I had to spend like 4 hours over there one day. I haven't been up to her room in almost 2 years, and I just had to clear a bunch of her books and a bunch of stuff out of there. It was like, oh, that was a rough day. Anyway, but in dealing with all that, it just kind of went off my radar. So I apologize for that. And so I will try to get that up in the morning so that you have the dimensions for that Journal Leo from last week. I am still working I will have this third steampunk project done here in December. And I'm also working on the Patreon downloadables this weekend. So those should be ready by Monday at the latest. And then I have jury duty on the 15th. Oh, joy. So cross your fingers I don't end up having to go in. And then we are still having a New Year's, but instead of doing the unicorn, I've decided to push that into January. Just with everything I've got going on, I just don't want to push too hard. And if I haven't started the sample yet, so it's just not realistic for me to get that done in terms of for starting on the 1st of January. So that is going to go straight to video. It will be done in January. That I will guarantee. So third steampunk in December, unicorn in January. But on New Year's, what I've decided to do is we are going to do a fun oh, Pam, help me out. I talked to her about it. I just went my brain just went completely blank. What's it called? It's not a calendar. It's what's it called? My brain is just racing. What's it called? It's, a book that's a calendar and a schedule, a planner. There we go. I was like, what's the word? So we're going to do a planner. It seems to me the perfect day to do a planner. So quick and easy. I'll try to get some stuff in advance, but I can't guarantee that for prep for it. But we're going to do that on New Year's Day, not New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Though it's kind of back to where, now the kids are off doing their own things. Sarah's off with her boyfriend, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's back to the way it was where the kids were in bed asleep and now the kids are just out. So my husband and I get that back. But anyway, we're going to do it on New Year's Day. I'll have more information as we get closer to that. But as I said, I just don't want to schedule and start a project prior to having it ready to go. So that's why I'm not giving you I will have the steampunk done by X date. I will have the unicorn done by X date. That's why I'm not doing that. It's why we didn't start the snow angels, the traditional version of the Snow Angels Three Sisters tonight because I just didn't have the tutorial done, and that's gotten me into trouble in the past. So we're just not doing that no more. I'm learning my lessons and moving forward in a way that works best. I'm going to add a ribbon as I'm sitting here looking at this sitting on my desk. I'm going to add a little ribbon bow or something dangling off of that one. But anyway, so that's where things are. We will be doing a class next Friday. This Friday night it works best for me. Saturday, I got nothing else. Anything I needed to go out and do on Saturday, I was too afraid I wouldn't get back in time. So I didn't go out at all on Saturday, which was both good and bad. But the Friday night works great for me. It works better than the Saturday did. So hopefully this works for all of you. So we'll have a class next Friday, and then the class that we'll do after that will be on New Year's Day. So we'll just do something much like this, just something fun and quick and easy, a single project. And then I'll still be working on getting the Snow Angels. Probably for the traditional one, I'll just do that out of, I don't know what paper. I don't know if I'll necessarily do it as a Christmas paper. Since I haven't, all I did was get the base part of it cut. So I may do that out of some different paper. I'm not really big on having Christmas type books. And so I'll probably just do it something more traditional out of one of my papers. Yeah, I just figured make it a little less stressed. I mean, I remember back, like 2015, 2014, when I would do I could crank out 3 tutorials in a week, and we do those projects and and I just look back and go, I wasn't that much younger, but dang, I just can't push at that same level, if nothing else, mentally right now. So we're just taking it easy, and not cranking the way that I used to. I don't feel as much of a sense of urgency, I guess is the word, that I seem to have had back then. But I think that was because we had so much stuff going on with Trevor at that point that you could always tell the more I was doing, the more I had going on personally, and it was my coping mechanism. But since I kind of lost that as my coping mechanism, it just adds stress. So we're just not doing that right now. So, so if you weren't able to keep up with me back in those days, don't feel that you should have, because things were just insane around our place. So it's like, it would have been hard to keep up with me in those days. So, all righty, guys. So I'm gonna let y'all go. I'm gonna go. We're gonna do takeout dinner, because Friday night's a little bit too crowded for my hubby's and my taste right now. Though I'm boosted, he's not yet, so we're just not as inclined. Though you have to show proof of vax to eat in restaurants. But I think we're just gonna get takeout for his birthday, because now we're only 3 months apart, but I get to, for those 3 months, 3.5 months, I get to call him old. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys all go, and we will see you next Friday at the same time at 4. And good job getting your booster. Proud of you. Anyway, I will see you all next Friday at 4, and we'll figure out what we're doing then. So, alrighty, guys, we will see you then. So, bye for now. Love you bunches.